Earth and Life Science. So we are now on week 6. So our topic for today is about natural hazards, mitigation, and adaptation. So under geological processes and hazards, so we have earthquake, landslide, volcanic eruptions, floods, cyclones, tornadoes, tides, and waves. So itong mga hazards na to is I will explain it in one by one para at malaman natin and ma-explain ko sa inyo yung kaibahan ng bawat isa. So first, let's define what is the difference between hazards and disaster. Even though these two are these two are threat to human being. So anong kaibahan ng dalawa? So let's go to hazard. So hazard is a phenomenon, a substance, human activity, or condition that may cause loss of life, injury or other health impacts, property damage, loss of livelihoods and services, social and economic disruption, or environmental damages. So under hazards, we have two types. So meron tayong biological hazards and we have the geophysical hazards. So under naman sa biological hazards class is we have the diseases and infections. So example nito is we have our itong pangyayari ngayon na we have the COVID-19. So under siya sa biological hazard. So geophysical naman class, example nito is we have the volcanic eruption, yung drought, and the floods. So let's go to disaster. So when we talk about disaster, this is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts, which exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope up using its own resources. So when we say disaster, it occurs suddenly or unexpectedly in most cases. So basically, itong mga disaster na sinasa under this is we have the earthquake, di ba? Suddenly siya nangyayari or kasi di ba wala namang kasi nagsasabi sa atin na okay, hindi naman sinasabi ng Feebox, okay, next month November 2 halimbawa, ganito ha, November 2 may tatamang malakas na lindor sa ganitong parte ng Mindanao or isang parte niyan, then intensity na ganito. So wala, hindi natin alam kasi nga kumbaga unexpected na nangyayari, di ba? Hindi siya pa rin sa typhoon class. Ang typhoon malalaman natin ganitong araw papasok sa Philippine Area of Responsibility, di ba? Ganitong oras o ganitong araw siya magla-landfall, di ba? Ganito yung lakas niya, so on and so forth. Or tawag nito, ganitong araw siya lalabas, di ba? Ganon, di ba? Dito siya dadaan, mga ganong bagay. So ito si disaster is hindi nalalaman or suddenly kasi siyang nangyayari. So who and what are affected during the disaster? So we have the people, tayo, lalo na ang mga tawag nito yung mga elderly o yung may mga tao may sakit, diba? We are easily affected or vulnerable tayo sa mga pangyayari kapag may pangyayari sa paligid natin. So next is we have the livelihood and properties. So when we talk about livelihood and properties, so ito yung pinagkakakitaan natin or ito yung yung meron tayo, yung property natin. So there are certain people who are risking their life just to save their livelihood and property. Di ba minsan nakikita natin sa news or sa mga Facebook na interviews na ayaw nilang iwan yung bahay nila, ayaw nilang iwan yung mga pinagkakakitaan nila. Di ba? Parang gano'n. So they are risking their life para ma-save yung anong meron sila or yung source of income nila. Next is we have the jobs and economic activities. So kapag may disaster class, di ba, hindi ka makakapasok ng trabaho, literally, di ba? Hindi mo na uunahin yung pagpasok sa trabaho, di ba? Basically, as a human being, yung una natin gagawin is you save ourselves and our family. So next is we have the facilities and the social services. So we talk about facilities, ito yung ginagamit or ano yung meron sa area natin or sa community natin. So basically, example ko dito is halimbawa yung mga health centers. So kapag may disaster, di ba, kung wala nang papasok sa health center na yun or tinamaan ng malaking sakuna yung certain facility na yan, hindi na magagamit, hindi na siya makakatulong sa community. And last is we have the environment. So when we talk about environment, ito yung nasa paligid natin, di ba? Paano sila maapektuhan? or di ba kung affected ang environment natin or yung mga sa paligid natin, lalo na kapag tawag nito, lalo na kapag hindi ka na tourist destination siya, so hindi na siya it will took months bago siya maka-recover or maibalik sa dating ganda. So next is let's go to So let's go to vulnerability. So this is the characteristics and circumstances of a community system or assets that make it susceptible to the damaging effect of a hazard. So when we talk about vulnerability, yung tao, yung facilities, yung environment, yung lahat na. Ito yung easily affected kapag may mga sakunang nangyayari. So now, let's go to capacity. This is the combination of all the strengths, attributes, and resources available within a community, society, or organization that can be used to achieve the agreed goals. So it's the capacity of the community, it's the capacity of the environment, the capacity of the area, the city alone, kung kailan or paano niya ibabalik sa dating ganda yung lugar niya after the calamity. So now let's go to earthquakes. So earthquakes type plus no. An earthquake is the result of a sudden release of stored energy in the Earth's crust that creates seismic waves. So at the Earth's surface, earthquake may manifest themselves by shaking or displacement of the ground. Sometimes they cause tsunamis. So tsunami class, mangyayari yan lalo na kapag epicenter is nasa dagat, di ba? Kapag sobrang lakas na ng lindol is possible na magkakause siya ng tsunami. So, tsunamis can lead to loss of life and destruction due to properties nga, di ba? Okay. So, an earthquake is caused by a sudden slip on a fault. So, when stress on the edge overcomes the friction, there is an earthquake that releases energy in waves that travel through the Earth's crust and cause the shaking that we feel. So, I have here 3 maps. Kung earthquake hazard maps, so ipapakita ko later on. So these 3 earthquake hazard maps which can be used in our analysis of the earthquake hazard in the Philippines. At least man lang no, malaman ninyo na baka yung city nyo pala, di ba, nasa taas na ng faults or mga fault lines. So we have here maps showing the places in the country which are at risk to earthquake. So we have also map showing the places in the country which are at risk to earthquakes and just landslide naman. So we have also map that shows the showing the places in the country which are at risk to tsunamis. So our hazard maps class are color coded. Kapag red for high risk, orange for medium risk, and yellow for low risk, and white kapag no risk naman. So what are the effects of earthquakes? The primary effects of earthquakes are ground shaking, diba? Ground rupture, landslides, tsunamis, and liquefactions. Fires are probably the single most important secondary effect of earthquakes. So bakit secondary effect siya? So possible halimbawa kapag may malakas na lindol na nangyari, diba? Ang tawag nito is possible na pwede bumuho ang isang building. Then, eventually, yung building is kapag gumuho or may mga wirings na meron dyan, yung linya ng kuryente is possible na magkakaroon ng sunog. So next is we have the 5 main causes of earthquakes. So the main cause of the earthquake is the volcanic eruption. So volcanic eruption. The main cause of the earthquake is the volcanic eruption. So such type of earthquake occurs in areas with frequent volcanic activities. So when boiling lava tries to breathe or break through the surface of the earth with the increased pressure of gases, a certain movement causes in the earth's crust. So next is we have the tectonic plates. So di ba we have the faults, yung mga plate tectonics rather. So the surface of the earth consists of some plates, which alam niyo naman yan, so comprising of the upper mantle. So these plates are always moving thus affecting the Earth's crust. So third is we have the geological faults. So it is known as the displacement of plates of the original plane. So the plane can be horizontal or vertical. Next is we have the man-made. So iisipin yung man-made, pero po ba? Yes, basically meron. So example of a man-made cause ng earthquake is we have the nuclear bombing. So nuclear bombing can send specific types of shockwaves throughout the surface of the Earth, which can disturb the natural alignment of tectonic plates. Lastly, we have the minor causes. Ito mga minor causes na ito. Last example of this is the yung collapse of rocks, yung collapse of heavy rocks, yung landslide. So makakakos siya ng minor earthquake or shock waves. So next is we have here the map showing the 10 provinces that are at risk to earthquake. So we have Surigao, La Union, Benguet, Pangasinan, Tarlac, Ifugao, Davao Oriental, Nueva Vizcaya, and Nueva Ecija. So basically, I am here sa Jensen, sa southern part of the Mindanao. Kami, ng family ko. So kapag merong lindol sa Davao Oriental, is nararamdaman namin dito. So itong Surigao and Davao, bakit meron? Kasi merong Philippine trench na malapit or merong tawag dito, merong active faults sa kanila. So tingnan nyo, di ba, nasa map kung nasang area kayo. Diba? At mas malalaman nyo, okay, high risk pala, rather yung tinayuan namin ng bahay or yung area na nasan kami. So next is we have 10 provinces that are at risk to tsunamis. So we have Sulot, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, Batanes, Guimaras, Romblon, Siquijor, Surigao del Norte, Camiguin, and Masbate. So itong Basilan and Romblon, bakit sila na-include sa high risk? Especially kasi nga, nakaranas na sila or naging affected na sila ng tsunami or may nangyari ng tsunami way back ilang taon na nangyayari, di ba? Then itong sa Sulo, Basilan, tama ba? Sulo and Tawi-Tawi, di ba? Itong mga malapit sa south dito sa Mindanao, is meron kasing Sulo Trench and Cotabato Trench na malapit. So di ba pansin niyo class, ang lahat ng nasa provinces that are at risk to tsunamis is yung mga lugar na malapit sa baybayin. So what we will do before an earthquake? So number one, make sure you have a fire extinguisher. So first aid kit, basically kahit naman hindi yung lindol yung hindi lindol yung pinaghahandaan natin, di ba? Dapat meron talaga tayong first aid kit. A battery powered radio, a flashlight, and an extra battery. So basically we are now on the 21st century high-tech tayo class. So yung cellphone natin may built-in radio na, may flashlight na, and when we talk about extra batteries, meron tayong mga power banks. Then next is learn the first aid kit. So basically yung basic lang na first aid kit is dapat natin yung malaman. So learn how to turn off the gas, water, and electricity in your home. So make up a plan where to live, where to meet your family after an earthquake. So basically, ako, as to my experience, way back 3 years ago, yung kasagsagan ng paggalaw ng fault lines sa may Kidapawan and Davao Oriental. Davao de Oro? Oriental ata, sorry. Diba gumagala yung mga fault line? So ramdam namin dito even though nasa medyo malayo. Ang ginagawa ko, sinasabihin ko yung family members ko na yung nanay ko, tatay ko, kapatid ko, yung mga pamangkin ko, sinasabihin ko sila na okay, what you will do is kapag may lindol, kahit kasagsagan nyo ng kasarapan ng tulog, kasi nakakagising talaga class, di ba? Aminin natin kapag medyo malakas, di ba? Akala mo umuuga yung yung kama mo, di ba? Nagigising ka talaga. Sabi ko, buksan agad yung pinto, labas lahat. So sa labas na lahat yung nagkikita. So I hope if ever kung earthquake prone yung lugar nyo, sana may mga plans kayo on how to meet your family kapag may lindol. So don't leave heavy object on shelves. Basically, baka mahulog kasi nga mabigat yung mga gamit natin. So don't leave anchor heavy furniture, scaffolds, and appliances to the walls or floor. So, dapat may nakaharang siya or merong support. So, di ba sa mga TV natin ngayon class, meron ng bracket na sinasabi. So, that's another way of supporting the television para hindi siya mahulog. Di ba? Nakadikit lang sa wall. Then, learn the earthquake plan at your schools or workplace. Basically, every year, merong ginagawang earthquake drill. So, hindi lang sa school yan, kahit sa workplace class may ganyan. So, next is what we will do kapag may lindol na talaga, nangyari na yung lindol. So, una, stay calm, huwag kayong magpanik. So, as to our experience, na kami sa bahay kasi hindi kami nagpapanik, diba? Sabi, labas, tahimik lang. Pero yung kapitbahay namin kasi grabe. So, ang ginagawa is, nagsisigaw. Sabi ko na ba na, ano ba naman yan, di ba? Kahit ikaw na kalmado ka is, ang gagawin mo is, pati ikaw is madadamay ka dahil sa kakasigaw ng kasama niyo or malapit sa inyo. So if you're indoors, stay against the wall or near the center of the building, stand in doorways or crawl under heavy furnitures, or yung sinasabi natin duck cover and hold. Basta buti na ang nasa baba ka ng desk or table para yung mga debris na mahulog sa kisabi or sa mga bubong is hindi ka matatamaan. So if you're outdoors, stay in an open away from power lines. Basically, kapag nasa labas ka ng bahay or nasa labas ka, wag mo na wag ka na pumasok. Diba? Stay away from mga power lines, mga puno or mga buildings kasi may tendency na baka mag-collapse yan. Baka naman kung nakatambay ka or nakatambay ka nga sa sa puno, paano kung matumba yan, diba? So don't use matches, candles, or any flame. Broken gas lines and fire don't mix. So if you're in a car, stop the car, stay inside the car until the earthquake stops. So ito, anong gagawin natin after an earthquake? So una, check yourself. Tingnan mo sarili, baka nasaktan ka na, di ba? And others for injury. So hindi natin malalaman, di ba? Sobrang yung adrenaline rush nga yung sinasabi, di ba, na sobrang taranta. Kasi may ganito kalakas na lindol, di ba? Hindi mo alam na nasaktan ka na pala, di ba? Nagkasugat-sugat ko yung family members mo. Then provide first aid for anyone who needs it. Then check water, gas, and electric lines for damage. If ever meron man, i-call the authorities para at least ma-repair at magamit niyo. Then turn on the radio. Don't use the phone unless it's an emergency. So basically, if may radyo kayo or minsan kasi sa phone, di ba, tinitingnan na lang natin sa Facebook ano yung mga updates. So, buksan nyo para at least alam niyo yung ano yung gagawin ng local government unit when it comes to the people who are affected with this kind of calamity. Then be careful around the broken glass and debris. So, mahirap na baka if yung mga basag na glass, may matamaan ka or magkasugat-sugat. Then stay out of damaged building. Basically, alam mo ng damage, huwag yun ang pasukin. Diba? Then, be careful of chimney. Halimbawa yung bahay nyo may chimney, di ba? Social. So, basically, ingat lang kasi nga baka yung condition niya is naging marupok. Marupok na yung term, di ba? Rumupok na or, di ba? Dahil sa lindol, baka kasi mahulog. So, stay away from beaches, tsunamis, kapag nasa dagat ka, nagka-lindol na malakas. Basically, observe the environment class, no? Titingnan nyo, baka umatras yung tubig ng dagat. Basically, sa pag-aatras yan, it's a sign of tsunami. So basically, ang gagawin nyo is evacuate the area and pumunta sa mas matataas na lugar. So stay away from the damaged area. So kung alam mo ng damage, huwag nyo na puntahan or pasukin. So tayo kasi as Pinoy, no, ang hilig natin umusisa, alam na sira na, damage na yung area, yung building or whatsoever. Pupunta pa, makikiusiso, titingnan pa ano nangyari, pipicture, video, ipopost sa Facebook. Okay. That's literally yan ang nangyayari. So wag na. Then next, if you're at school or work, follow the emergency plan or instruction of the person in charge. Then expect aftershock. Basically, kapag sobrang lakas ng lindol, meron talaga aftershock yan. Then may tendency na yung aftershock mas malakas pa sa lindol. So may ibang aftershock din naman na hindi natin nararamdaman, sobrang hina. So let's go to volcanic eruptions. So what are volcanic related hazards? So these are the volcanic phenomena directly associated with eruptions. So the following are volcanic hazards. Number one, we have the lahar, ash fault, pyroclastic flow, ballistic projectile, volcanic gases, and the lava flow. So impacts of lava. So we have lahat ng madadaanan ng lava gas, basically. Susunugin yan, di ba? Imagine nyo naman, di ba? Nasa in a liquid form siya. So ano yung parte ng lupa na mababa kung siya mag-flow, di ba? Ingat-ingat din. Then next is we have the ash fall. So it can cause poor visibility. It can bury agricultural lands, clog human lungs, machine, filters, and motors. So nung tumabog ang Volcano Taal, di ba, ganito yung nangyari, yung mga tao, yung mga sasakyan nga nahirapan kasi nga, mahirap makita. I mean, kumbaga, di ba, basically, tingnan yung nasa video, di ba, nasa kalahati na yung bahay at saka sasakyan. So ganyan siya kakapal yung ashfall. Then next is we have the pyroclastic flow. So magkaiba sila sa ashfall. So itong si pyroclastic flow class, it can burn faster siya sa ashfall. So destroys anything on its impact. So may direct impact talaga siya. Possible, pwede niya masunog ang bundok, yung mga farmlands natin, yung mga buildings, yung mga taniman natin. So itong pyroclastic flow, meron siyang kasamang hot rock debris. Yan yung kaibahan niya sa ashfall. So di ba, imagine mo, may mga bato siyang kasama na maiinit. Di ba? So next, we have lahar. So lahar can be destroyed by direct impact. So lahar is unblock tributary streams. So basically, mahaharangan niya, mabablock niya yung mga streams na meron tayo and forms a lake. So this can submerge villages within the valley of the tributary that was blocked. So next is we have the volcanic gases. Ito yung yellow substance na nasa usok. Hindi yung lalaking nasa class ha. Hindi yung lalaki na nakasuit na kasi yellow, di kasi yung suit niya. So it can cause health problems to people rather and animals through intoxication. So sulfur siya class, di ba? Ang amoy niya is parang mabahong itlog. Diba? Next is we have the ballistic projectile. It is a big rock. Di ba? Yung nakikita niyo sa figure. So it endangered life and property by the force of impact of falling fragments. Basically, kung just try to imagine kung kalaki yung bato na ibinubuga ng vulkan. Diba? Nakakatakot. So next, what are the signs of impeding volcanic eruption? Merong steaming activity na nangyayari. Then, yung steam, di ba, white, dati kasi yung steam white talaga yun siya basically, di ba? Para ka lang yung nagsisteam, yung mainit na tubig nga ganon. So kapag malapit na yung pumutok ang vulkan, yung steam na color white, nagiging gray or dark siya. Dahil sa presence ng ash. Then drying of vegetation, drying up of streams, water wells, then crater glow at the summit area. And merong frequent na earthquake na nangyayari dahil sa may mga rolling of rocks na siya. And summit area appears to glow or become incandescent. At night sa gabi, titingnan mo ang ganda tingnan kasi nga, di ba, parang nag-glow siya but delikado. So you can hear rumbling sounds, then the smell of sulfur rather or the rotten eggs. Then ground movement or volcanic earthquake increase thing become felt. Basically, nafe-felt or nararamdaman na yung pakanakan ng ito ng lindol. So let's go to landslide. A landslide is the movement of rock, earth, or debris down a slope section of land. So landslide are caused by rain, earthquakes, volcanoes, or other factors that make the slope unstoppable. So geologists and scientists who study the physical formations of the earth sometimes describe landslide as one of the type of mass wasting. So we have here maps showing the areas that are freeze to earthquake-induced shallow landslides. So ito yung mga lugar na medyo matataas. Diba? We have Ifugao, Lanao del Sur, Sarangani, Benguet, Mountain Province, Bukidnon, Aurora, Davao del Sur, Davao Oriental, and the Rizal. Okay, next, let's go to floods. So flooding is a temporary overflow of water onto that land that is normally dry. So floods are the most common natural disaster in the United States, even though hindi lang sa US less, no? Kahit sa atin din, di ba dati way back when I was in high school, kung uulan lang ng 10 minutes, hindi pa babaha. So ngayon kahit 5 minutes lang kasi bumabaha na, Diyos ko, ano ba naman yan? So failing to evacuate flooded areas or entering floodwaters can lead to injury or deaths. Bakit? Kasi diba, lalo na kapag contaminated yung tubig, diba? Kasi may mga sakit tayong nakukuha sa baha. So we have the leptospirosis rather. So yun yung dumi na galing sa sa daga. So floods may result from rain, snow, coastal storms, storm surge, and overflow of dams and other water systems. So, floods may develop slowly or quickly. So kung kapag may flash flood class, wala siyang warning, wala sinasabi na, okay, mamaya, sabi, di ba, wala makakapagsabi, okay, mamaya alas 2, di ba? May flash flood, walang ganun, no? So, flash floods or floods cause outage, disrupt transportation, basically, kasi nga, lalo na pag mataas ang tubig, so yung transportation natin makakat, it can damage buildings and create landslide kasi nga mas lumambot na yung lupa. So next is let's go to cyclones and tornadoes. So what is a cyclone? So ano yung kaibahan nila sa tornado? So ang cyclone kasi class, kung iisipin natin, di ba, parang hindi siya familiar talaga sa atin, di ba? Ano yung familiar sa atin is yung types of storm. So we have the hurricane and the typhoon. So both hurricane and typhoons are types of cyclone. So di ba sa atin dito, typhoon ang ginagamit natin na term. So in general, you can think of a cyclone as the extensive weather system measuring several hundreds of miles where the wind rotates around an area of low pressure known as the ice. So, si cyclone may mata. Nasa gitnang portion or gitnang part, is yan yung mata. So ito sa figure, di ba parang in a circle na, paano ba to? Counterclockwise siya. Diba? So yung mata niyan is ito yung nasa gitna. So si cyclone class na-form siya sa tubig. Yan yung kaibahan nila ni tornado. So when it comes to cyclone, you will find 3 general types. So we have the tropical, subtropical, and extratropical cyclones. So tropical cyclones form over warm tropical ocean waters when the warm, moist ocean air rises. So they cause high winds, rain, and destruction in their wake. So tropical cyclones are the most common and include different intensity. Kapag tropical depression class, less than 39 miles per hour yung lakas niya. Kapag 39 to 74 naman is tropical storm. Kapag hurricane or typhoon yung pinag-uusapan, nasa 74 miles per hour or sobra pa yung lakas niya. So ano yung kaibahan nila sa tornado? Ito yung kaibahan nila kasi si tornado class is a landstorm siya. Diba si cyclone kanina is na-forms tubig. So, a tornado is also known as twister or tornadoes form kapag yung malamig at may init na hangin nag-meet siya, yung pressure nila sa atmosphere. So, causing a swirling vortex of spinning air. So, that air then creates a funnel that descends from the storm. So we have here types of storm. We have the supercell and the non-supercell. So ito yung example ng tornado class, no? Masyadong delikado. So basically, lalo na kapag sa US, di ba, ganito kalaki, or hindi lang isa, minsan dalawa or tatlo yung nakikita natin yung mga tornado doon sa kanila na sabay-sabay na bubuo. So ang kaibahan naman yung supercell sa non-supercell is yung non-supercell, mas weaker yung hangin na dala niya. Then shorter yung lifespan. So madali siya mawala. Siguro in a span of a minute lang. So ganoon lang kadali. Then next, let's go to the tides and waves. So malapit na matapos this. 2 slides na lang. So tides and waves, these are the rise and fall of the water on the surface of the sea. Influenced by the gravitational force of the sun, moon, and earth. So waves naman are formed by the movement of wind on the surface of the wave and transfer of energy by the friction between the air and the water molecules. So ito yung kaibahan nila kas, no? Again, si tide, ito, it controlled by the moon, di ba? Lalo na, sino yung nakatira sa malapit sa dagat or baybayin? Di ba napapansin nyo kapag new moon or full moon, we have the highest high tide and the lowest low tide dahil sa gravity ng moon na hinihila. Then ito naman si wave, itong nasa right part or nasa right picture na nakikita nyo sa screen nyo. So this is influenced by the wind. So kung anong kalakas, diba, nakaka-form siya ng sobrang laking waves naman. So that ends our discussion this afternoon. So if you have questions or clarifications, you can ask me